So, poops, one and all. If you want to know the answer to the question, rest assured, I would like to know the answer to the question as well. And welcome everyone to today's live stream, which is titled Just Casually, Why Are There Malaysians Who Are Disrespecting India? And you might disagree with the premise of a live stream. You might be all like, oh, come on. It's not all that bad. But I want to know. I want to know who right here is here at the moment. And by the way, like, welcome to every single one of you. Let me know, like, where are you watching from? All right. Let me know. Let me know. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the chat. All right. Great. So, anyway, yeah, like I hope everybody's having a good Sunday afternoon right here, leading to evening. We're just about to have like dinner right here. It's gonna be a quick little live stream, so to speak. So yeah, it's gonna be a nice little chat right here. I realized that the chat is like kind of disabled at the moment, so I need to kind of like fix that. If you refresh the video, then we will be up to just casually chatting about this topic pretty soon. Anyway, so to those of you who have been following PM Narendra Modi's visit over the past couple of hours right here, you probably know that he arrived in Malaysia just yesterday, right? At around like 4 p.m. And it was actually kind of like a nice like welcome, I must say. So like props to our Sapoops for giving him like a nice welcome. I've been following pretty much like the good old Facebook feed of PM Modi himself, and yeah, it's kind of like nice to see the sort of like reception that he has been receiving. You can call Anwar Ibrahim whatever it is that you want. You can say that he is ketimbang. You can say that basically he is indecisive. You can say that this is not reformasi, it is reformati, that kind of thing right there. But you know what? Like the guy is a damn good host. Like he is a damn good host. He is absolutely a damn good host. Like just look at it right there. Like if you look at like Modi's like welcome and everything right there, it's nice. You know, like you've got a whole bunch of different things. Hindu sangam, like you've got like dancers, basically everybody synchronizing with one another to make the whole thing happen right here. It's absolutely beautiful. It's nice and everything like that. But here actually, and you can see the whole like visit right here, the handshake, the hug type of thing right there, which you might have seen a little bit earlier on. You might actually start to realize, right? If you look at it from the sort of India point of view, then like it's totally nice and everything. It's like touching. But oh man, if you look at it, if you look at this from the so-called Malaysia point of view, wow, like things just start like breaking down and they start breaking down very, very quickly. I swear. But like, yeah, like coming back a little bit right there to our chat for a bit. So people, where are you watching from? Let me know out in the chat. And yeah, that being said, right, we've got some people just casually saying, hello, Victor. Hello, what's up, Sapoop? Welcome back, John. And Beta Tree says, superpower India Pawum Pa. I'm sorry, like, this is just me trying to read that out. Like, I don't know if actually that is how that's pronounced. But yeah, anyway, I'm sure that there are some people from like both India and also like Malaysia here at this moment in time. But anyway, what I want to show you guys is basically this right over here. Look, if you go basically on any of the news feeds, right? Like India, whatever, Sinar Harian kind of thing right there. Just look. Just look at the kinds of emojis that you will have right over here. Look at this. 625 reactions, and you have a grand total of 381 laughter emojis. Look at this. Then, like, what do we have right here? Malaysia sifatkan India sebagai rakan baik. Usaha perluas kerja sama, which translates to Malaysia characterizes India as a good friend and promises the increase essentially of working together right there. So then, like, what do you have right there? What do you have right there? 78 laughter emojis. And like if you actually go over to the other places right here, then like you're gonna see a little bit more stuff right here. 5.9K right there. And bros, we're not even looking at the comments just yet. We're not even looking at the comments, okay? Like, look, like it on the surface, right? Okay, like I'm sure that like when it comes to like Anwar Ibrahim and Narendra Modi, yes, the man like turns on his charm tap and everything like that. And like they are basically like BFS, like it's super great and everything like that. But if you actually start looking into like the relationship, right, between India and the Malaysian people, then you start realizing that there's a very different story. Yeah. And wow, I'm gonna show you guys like just a little bit right here of like the comments that you're going to see like whenever, right, you go out there on the news. Seriously. Okay, look. So first, if we go right ahead and like have a look at this right here, the singing of Hindi songs Anwar is now viral in India. Okay, like this seems like a sort of like reasonable thing right there, but like if you look at this, bro. Okay, this is a perfect example by the way, because I've never actually seen this article before. But like, oh, I'm sorry, Amirul Shafiq. I need to close that. All right. So then if you actually look at this, this is a perfect example, right? Because like, what is this? This is like basically perfectly innocuous, right? Like, it's basically just Anwar doing the equivalent of singing like a Hindi song right there. Basically, me going all like, Job life ho out of control, honton ko karke gol, honton ko karke gol, siti baja ke bol, all is well, kind of thing. Well, he didn't actually sing that, but the point is, right, he sings a Hindi song, right? And then immediately, then you have people writing out comments like this. Look at this. All right. Beria betul barwa ni. And then barwa and barwa. And like you have like all those kinds of things like chambingai. Anwar pun pandai backflip napa X highlight. And of course, like there are some people out there. Betul tu dia memang keturunan India sebab tu pandai nyanyi lagu Hindi. And you know, there's a part of this actually, right, that can be explained, right, by the fact that like simply not everybody in Malaysia likes Anwar Ibrahim. It's sort of like understandable, right? Like very low Malay support. The guy essentially is at this point in time one of the most unpopular amongst the Malays prime ministers in the history of the country. Like it's actually bad, like in a whole bunch of different ways right here. So then, okay, like is it because people don't like Anwar that basically like this sort of thing is happening right here? Is it because like they cannot stand to see him like becoming popular and stuff like that? Well, if you actually start looking though at the sorts of comments that you are getting right there, yeah, look. So like you are gonna end up seeing a whole bunch of things like this. Look at this. Tak de jati diri pemimpin Melayu, ko tak de baju Melayu ke non. So Modi to, okay, reasonable, but look at this. And now here you have it from Muhammad Aslam Ali going all, Modi tu bukannya dia suka orang Islam, dia anti-Islam macam Trump. Okay, so like, is it like a policy thing? Does it have to do with like your good old fashioned, shall we say, like, I don't know, like Hindutva, BJP, like, oh, this is like extreme kind of thing out there? Maybe it could be. But like honestly, if you actually were to like think about this right here, it is really, at least in my thought process, right? Part of a sort of like systematic, right? Or like normalized almost like desensitization of the Malaysian people, right? Towards like what is normal or acceptable conduct when actually talking about fellow countries. I don't know if it's like because like some people were just like not educated, they've like not seen Indian people before, or because like their own personal inferiority complexes basically are just kind of like going out right there. But yeah, that's sort of like disrespect. It is an ongoing thing. And I'll show you more of that a little bit later on. But for now, comments, comments, comments. What do we have right over there? Yeah. Okay, so some comments from people out there being all like, they literally have argument with everybody. India, China, people from Thailand, Indo, Singapore, even Orang Asli can't get along. What do you think? Okay, well, to be fair, when we say they right there, so then like it could refer to like say the Malays as a whole, right? But the thing is that I think that it's more fair to say that like it is a subset of people in Malaysia, which is why the title of this live stream, right, is basically why are there people in Malaysia disrespecting India? And if you don't think that they exist, right? Like, look, we just like went through, and welcome to all of you who just like popped in. We just went through a couple of examples earlier, right? Of like people who are actually going out and then showcasing their hate for India. And like, again, I'll show you a couple more examples out there. Now, I actually just want to know, right, like your thoughts right here. So like those of you out there who are just casually watching, what are your thoughts about India as a country? And let's then say positive, and then let's say negative, neutral, actually, and then let's say like negative. All right. So this is just me like thinking that like mostly you guys are Malaysians, but of course I'm aware, of course, that there are people like from India here at the moment. So I want to be mindful that like, yeah, like it can be skewed to a little extent, but I just want to know like what you actually think. What are your thoughts about India as a country? Now, I don't know actually like how many of you out there understand or know, right, that we do have like a lot of different like ways that we actually do work together with India, right? Like they are actually in a very real way, right? Like people who should be our partners that have very natural reasons essentially for us to be partners with, so to speak. But of course, you know, like there's that whole balancing, that whole rivalry with China and the South China Sea right here. But I found that this article was quite valuable in sort of understanding, right? Like the path of cooperation, the MOUs and stuff like that. That basically India and Malaysia were signing, and it was like basically talking about like the relationship between Malaysia and India. And a fun fact for you, right, is that okay, so here it says, right, at the people to people level, there is significant goodwill toward India in Malaysia. Okay, I would say that like yes, there is a lot of goodwill from like people in Malaysia towards India, generally speaking. But like, is it the whole country? Well, that's kind of like debatable. But an interesting fact that you may not have known, right, is that this is, as in like Malaysia is home to 2.75 million persons of Indian origin. So the second largest PIO community globally after the United States, and the third largest Indian diaspora worldwide, 2.9 million. And you can actually see right here like a whole bunch of different things right here that India cooperates with us on. And yeah, so we have like a couple of things like say Torana Gate right here at Brickfields. I'm pretty sure that like some of y'all have seen this before. But if you've not actually seen it, then like it is basically this thing right over here. Yeah. But yeah, so like we have a very long like association, a strong relationship in a whole bunch of different ways. But I don't know, like when I think about it, I just think that a lot of it, right, unfortunately, it's not something that has actually, right, like percolated, or it's like actually flowed down, right, into like the day to day people that you see on a day to day basis. Because otherwise, right, there's no way that you would have seen the laughter emojis that you saw just now. And we'll talk more about that in a bit, but I want to see what you guys are actually saying right here. All right, so in the comments, so we have like a couple of y'all casually saying at the moment, right? That like you have positive thoughts towards India as a country. 19% of you are neutral, then 12% of you negative. All right, so this is basically what it is right over there. Yeah, so welcome, Ernest from Canada, and you have like some people from India as well. So, Bias, welcome to this live stream right over here. I don't know if you've actually been for this before, but thank you for joining us. Anyway, so what do we have right over there? Alduin, you are saying that India you thought was a mono-ethnic country, but actually it is multi-ethnic, just like Malaysia. And yeah, it's actually kind of interesting, right? Because like people I feel like don't really know about the sort of like diversity in India. And like they don't realize that like it's a very big place, right? And like in fact, like one of the things that is interesting about it is that there are a lot of like different languages, dialects from whether you go to Maharashtra or to Hyderabad, right? Like you're gonna find like people speaking like a mixture of like Hindi, Tamil, language, Telugu, and like a whole bunch of different things right over there. So it's a very diverse place, but like it's I don't know, like Lee Kuan Yew actually like spoke once, right, about how that was actually a factor that might make it difficult for India to develop. Interestingly enough, that's just like a historical factoid for you. You can evaluate whether it's true or not. But he was basically saying that like, hey, look, it's gonna be hard for you to kind of like align right the development of like different places if everybody's like speaking different languages all of the time. But still, of course, like a lot of people in India do speak English. So yeah. But either way, that's like a concern that India is going to be like resolving on its terms. And yeah, so I wish them all the very best on that. But anyway, yeah, so India, very interesting place, for sure. But unfortunately, right, like it is also a place that doesn't always get the most like respect, I would say, like from people from Malaysia. And like to all of you people out there who are from India, right? So then in the thumbnail you would have probably seen, and I kind of like this thumbnail right here, but it articulates right like what I think is like proper for me to say as like a Malaysian who will essentially be unfortunately right tarred with the same brush right as what people are saying right here. All right, look at this. There are people saying right here all of these things, and I want to say, as a Malaysian, right? Like, I am sorry. Like, these are by the way, like real comments that I've seen from actual Malaysian people. Some of them may not be Malaysian or otherwise, right? That basically are going around insulting, well, Indian people. And like, I'm gonna translate this for you, right? This one right here, I recall it came from like a Siddha Harian article. I don't remember exactly which at this point, but it basically translates into drinker of cow urine. All right. Another thing right here, Pengganas BJP, BJP terrorists. And then Penjilat Tegar, Negara Haram, Israel. So like BJP terrorists and also, well, friend of Israel, illegal country Israel, so to speak. And like, okay, I wonder constantly, right? Like what another country's relations with another place right there have to do with these people, but for some reason they just cannot mind their own business. And look, like this is, by the way, like a picture. I censored it out. Clearly, it would not otherwise belong on stream. But this was, by the way, during the course of the India-Pakistan conflict, right? This one guy basically made this picture right here. It is obviously of a person who is of Indian descent as represented basically by the Indian flag, right? And then licking, well, you can see like what is actually going on right there. And I think the message is kind of like clear at this point right here that like you can see that wherever it is that you go, really, like if you go ahead, right, and like you search actually like Sina Harian or like pretty much any sort of like piece right here, you're not only going to see like the laughter emojis, but you're going to see like all of these like comments basically. Look at this. It's not that hard to see Look at this. Like PMX tiada pendirian tak boleh dipercaya. So like, hey, you have no stance. You cannot be believed. When is the election going to be, boy? The terrorist has come. A Jew has arrived. And then like here you have like a whole bunch of like different things right here, which is like again like not their concern kind of thing. I can understand like the sympathy right here, but look at this. Okay, and then like this guy right here, Nam Ram. Okay, like I don't know if like this person is actually like an oh my god. Okay, that's unfortunate. But look, nak pacak kuil juga ke? Basically, like what that means is like, are you gonna put up an illegal temple here as well? And by the way, that opens up a whole like can of worms along the way, right? Because like, yes, you are seeing basically like this sort of like disrespect from your standard issue social media voter right here. And in slight defense, right, of my country, what I will say is that just because you see something on social media, that does not mean that it is completely representative of the entire country, right? Like people who go on social media, like let's be real, like you are basically like part of what we call a selected group, right? Like it's not a random sample. If you comment on social media, you are more likely to be the kind of person who is like very expressive. You have very certain thoughts, right? About like how things are. That's why you chose to express yourself. And that's actually one of the reasons why like we have like such a polarized internet ecosystem out there, which is like crazy, but it is unfortunate to think about. I'm seeing some comments from people out here, and Ernest says that, well, you're from Canada, and the opinions of Indians have become negative over the last few years, sadly. Well, I am sorry to hear that. And look, right, if we actually think about, like, say, the negative opinions, right, of like any sort of community out there, I think that that's very unfortunate. It's sad, right? But you can actually break it down, right, into sometimes, right, like grievances maybe that people have, right, with the community that are actually valid, and grievances on the other hand, right, that are actually like not valid, right there. Like okay, like let me give you like an example, right? So of like the ways that people speak, right, about like different communities, and I'll start with like my own, right, because like it would make sense right here for me to actually talk about that right there, like how people see me as like say a quote unquote pendatang right here, so that I can demonstrate that I understand the logic, right? Before I even like talk about anybody else's culture out there, right? So purely saying that like, hey, this is how people may see us once in a while. So for some people, what they think, right, is that okay, you're Malaysian Chinese, all right, and basically you are kiasu, you have Mandarin speaking jobs only, you keep amongst yourselves, you tak bergaul dengan bangsa lain, right there, meaning that like you don't interact with other races, you are very close, insular, you may be selfish, right there. And you know, let me go ahead and say, right, that this is an opinion that I have from like, in fact, interacting with a lot of like Chinese people right here. I can actually confidently say that like some of that is a little bit true, right? Like people in, for example, Chinese schools, like they want to win, they want to do well, right? So then that can manifest, right, as someone being kiasu in the sense that like they are overly competitive, they want to win basically at any cost, right there. And I may or may not have experienced that before. I will say also that like some people, right, like they can be insular. That is absolutely true, right? But you also have to consider the context of why it is that way, right? Because like there's a very complex history of like, oh, you know, you feel that maybe you need to preserve your culture, maybe in some way, shape, or form, it is necessary, right, for you to do well at any cost in order to succeed. I get why some people might essentially like take issue with that, right? So I can see like that idea right there. If we were to speak about like say other communities, right? So like I can talk about like say what my friends, for example, in Singapore may have said, right, about the Indian community, and trying to focus, for example, my attention, right, on what I would consider like a valid complaint. it would not be valid, for example, to do what some people might do, right? And then say, oh, I don't like Indians because of, let's say, the way that they look, the way that they may smell, or other things like that. That's not appropriate, right? But there have been like some instances where I hear, for example, like a similar complaint to what I might hear in like my own community, right? That sometimes like we do not interact with people outside of our circle. So then in Singapore, like they call that the Sika problem, CECA, right? Whereby they have like a whole bunch of people who, for example, right, like maybe speaking Hindi, like on the trains, they do not speak to like say other people like in English right there, and like they keep close to one another. In part, I sort of understand where that comes from, but in part also I think like that's something that from a socio-dynamic point of view, right, it needs to actually change. But now let's go back to like this idea, right, of like what's not appropriate, right, for you to actually like evaluate people on and to actually discriminate against, right? Like, for one thing, identity is something that you probably should not be discriminating on. You should not be like saying like, hey, these people are like Hindu, therefore, right, I hate these people, right? You should not be saying that like other people out there in your community who happen to be Indian, right? Like they are horrible. Like every single one of them happens to drink cow urine, which is exactly what some of these people do. I don't know. It's because I don't know whether it's because like they have been told that it is acceptable to do that sort of thing, or like they feel persecuted or victimized or anything else out there. But you can actually see, right? Like, look at this. And it's very interesting. Negara paling kotor, the dirtiest country, and stuff of that nature, and terrorists, and so on and so forth, right here. And in fact, like, there's an interesting sort of like thing that we can actually see right here, right? Like, all of these like stereotypes that are unfair, right? For the way that like a lot of these people actually are. Now, I say like, why are there some Malaysians who basically are discriminating or disrespecting India, right? So then I guess partly the answer is that, well, it's not all Malaysians. It just happens to be like a very big group of them on social media. And the fact is that I think a lot of them, right, they might be like uneducated or they might essentially be like indoctrinated in some way out there, but it is a real problem and it is very much out there. Anyway, so what do we have right here as some people have been voting? I see that grand total of 70% of y'all at the moment, like you have positive thoughts about India. All right, so this is actually like a nice sort of like transition point right here. I'm gonna ask you right now. So, have you actually visited India before, or do you intend to visit India? Now, this is a kind of like, I think, an important question for us to ask right here because like there's this idea of like tak kenal maka tak cinta, that kind of thing. But honestly, like if we think about like the whole prospect of visiting India, like it's actually something that like sometimes if you have like Indian friends who are like talking to you about their own country, right? Like they acknowledge that there are limitations, right? Like for example, right now I'm like actually considering whether or not to actually take a trip to India, like sometime in about October, because of the annual Mensa gathering, right? So then it happens that Asian Mensa gathering. So it happens to be the case that they are having the, shall we say, Mensa gathering this year in India, and then India is going to be the host, right? So you have a whole range of people who are going to be like organizing this event right here, and it's actually a really good chance to get to see India, right? But the thing is, right, they are recommending or they are marketing India to us at the moment, right? Because so like by saying that, hey, like if you actually go ahead and you visit India in this situation, it's going to be a lot cleaner. It's going to be a lot safer because you're actually in a group. If you're a woman, then they say, hey, maybe you shouldn't go on your own because like that is actually like what, and this is not what I am saying, like just based on like my own like assertions or like my own views of the society. But like you can actually see people who are from India of Indian descent who are like saying, hey, like maybe yeah, like if you are a woman, then like it's a legit security concern. If you want to drink tap water, then don't, because like that's an actual problem right there. All right, but anyway, yeah, so Paul, have you actually visited before India before, or do you intend to visit India? So they're like, yes, no, not sure. I see like some people out there in the comments who are talking about, well, the Westminster system and a whole bunch of different things right here. Razif, yeah, you're absolutely right. When Modi ji goes and speaks Hindi, it's yeah, understandable actually that I do that like a lot of like Indian people may not actually understand. And actually I don't know, right? Like I don't know, right? Like if you were to really like just go out there and speak Hindi all the way, right? The question is, so like would how many percent of the population would you actually reach? So you know what? Like let's go ahead and estimate that for a moment. Supposing that the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi were to give a speech in Hindi, and knowing what you know about the demographics and the linguistic capabilities of the population as manifested in the distribution of peoples across the nation of India, as well as their socio-cultural and linguistic backgrounds, how many percent of the population would you estimate would be likely to understand that speech? Controlling for levels of education or otherwise within a language. Yeah, so like this is basically when I say like controlling for education, I was like thinking about that, right? Like in the middle of that like thought process earlier. Like some people like they can know Hindi, for example, but like they just might essentially not be very good at it, right? So then like there's a question of like, do you know like Hindi very well kind of thing? You might know Hindi, but like do you know it very well? It's kind of like, for example, like, you know, if I am in what we call standard one, right? Or like the equivalent of like say your sixth grade, like in the US, in like the US kind of thing. Or otherwise, I may not understand what somebody who is much older, who is speaking the same language, may be saying. Or maybe they just like suck at like speaking. Some people are like so bad at communicating, they don't just like try to complicate every single thing out there. But yeah, you can see this right here. It may actually take a while for this, but yeah. The point that I do want to make, right, is that like there is essentially this like feeling, right, in my mind that disrespect is like a sort of like normalized thing, right, amongst the Malaysian population. And it's not, by the way, just like in relation to the Modi visit, right? Like I'm gonna show you actually right now, right? Something else, which is also related to that. Look at this. So like India, Pakistan, Sina, like Astro Awani, right? And those of you who have been following me for a while, right? Like you might have actually seen that the Malaysian media, it basically does not really favor India. And I'm just saying this right here. Look at this. Like when we search India, Pakistan, Astro Awani, you can see that they are clearly like they start the search result with like something that favors Pakistan. They go on with another search result that basically like favors Pakistan right there, showcasing heroism and like a whole bunch of other things of that nature right there. You can see like the reactions basically just going on and on. It's kind of interesting. And if you look at the comments, yet again, then you can actually see, right, like where all these people are coming from. And Rakyat Islam Malaysia sokong Pakistan, allegedly. And it's like, wow, like, okay, I don't know why, right? Like, all these people are somehow like going out there and just, shall we say, fighting over this. And for those of you, especially, right, like in India at the moment, or you may not know very much about Malaysian society, let me tell you that the India Pakistan conflict, right, in May of last year, it actually created a whole ton of like this sort of like division in like Malaysian society. And I will show you actually like the range of videos that I made, which I think that not every single one of you may have seen, but like I made a lot of videos, right, about like the India-Pakistan conflict, and I think that a lot of you actually came because you saw those videos right there. And yeah, now let's go right ahead and see this right here. All right, so Malaysia and India drama. All right, look, one of them is this live stream right here, but you also had, as I recall, this situation whereby Anwar was biased essentially against India when he was allegedly mediating the India-Pakistan conflict. Just kind of like talking, maybe I mean like it was basically him being called out, if I'm not wrong, by like a first post at that time because he was just casually like commenting, hey, you know what? Like, I identify with Pakistan's difficulties. Then, of course, then there's the media thing. And yeah, so like this one right here is about Malaysian Indians. For those of you who don't know any Malaysian Indians, so then you can go right ahead and watch that. So, I don't know, like it's interesting. But it's very tempting, right? I would say to go out there and then say, like, hey, you know what? Like it is just the people and it is not anything to do with the government. But Sapoops, if we actually think about that, that kind of doesn't really make sense. Because I don't know, right? Like, how many of you out there have watched Cloud Atlas? I'm not going to replace the poll just yet, but if you have watched Cloud Atlas, then like basically type a one in the chat for yes, and like basically I don't know, like a zero for like no kind of thing. Zero, no. How many of you have watched Cloud Atlas? Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies, but yeah. So there is a quote, right, that I really, really enjoy that comes right at the end of Cloud Atlas, and it goes something like this right here. By David Mitchell, one of the antagonists in the movie, right? He says the following. Look, and whatever, and for what? No matter what you do, it will never amount to anything but a single drop in a limitless ocean. So then, like, the main character basically responds by saying, hey, what is an ocean but a multitude of drops, right? Like, there's only so far that you can go by saying like, hey, these guys don't represent us, these guys don't represent us, these guys don't represent us, right? Like, sure, like I'm not one of those people out there who is casually like hating, for example, on India like every single day, and you best believe that like what I showed you, right, is happening every single day, right? Like these people are actually hateful. They are normalizing that hatred on a day-to-day basis. But hey, look, right? Like at what point, right, do we really get to the point where we start saying, so Malaysia actually systematically and as a whole disrespects India as a country, right? Like, is it enough that Anwar Ibrahim basically says, hey, like, I respect India. We're going to a new phase in bilateral relations. We are now best friends forever. Modi ji, let's shake hands and take a picture together. That sort of thing. I mean, well, imagine that basically in lieu of Anwar, you have like, I don't know, like 1,000 people out there who actually, for some reason or another, hate India and like are basically like screaming out Quil Haram day in and day out, here, there, and everywhere. Which actually naturally brings me to this next point out there. Who has been following the Zakir Naik drama out there? I don't know like if any of you have been following the whole Zakir Naik and also the Zamri Vinoth drama. I heard an interesting theory recently from somebody out there. I don't know if it's actually legit, but they were saying that, Zakir became really controversial in Malaysia just like a couple of years ago. And those of you who are in the know, you probably know that he has been the target, right, of a grand campaign from the Indian government for extradition, so to speak. So, like, we have wanted to essentially, well, I shouldn't say we, the Indian government has wanted to basically like send him back to India. And we might think to ourselves that like this is basically a temporary thing. And like this is something that we will just casually like forget about and no issue whatsoever. But it turns out actually that like when you consider like even recent developments and also what happened during the course of this diplomatic visit, right? Indian media also discussed like this topic right here. Yes, PM Modi received the whole guard of honor. He got a welcome. He met a whole bunch of different ministers here, there, and everywhere. It's all quite enjoyable to go right ahead and watch along the way. But if you actually think about it right there, they were even discussing about Zakir Naik. Now, those of you who watched my recent video, you understand very clearly that like there is that ongoing push, right, for Zakir to essentially be like caught right there. And frankly, like if we think about things and how like Malaysia has more or less like just blown off India, right, in the 8 years, right, that we have been basically holding this man well as a humanitarian concern, right? You could say that like basically maybe Jay Shankarji doesn't really care about any of that, right? It's about like the shall we say national interest of the Indian people first and foremost, and eliminating or shall we say prosecuting and bringing to the long arm of the law, Zakir is not really a main priority. But if you think about it, like it is actually a sort of snub, we can say. And you might think to yourself that, like, hey, people like Anwar are polite, they are civil, they are kind of nice out there. But, well, if you're literally just going to continue that pattern of snubbing and saying, hey, let me not go ahead and pursue the issue right there. I mean, if we think about it, is that not in and of itself basically an expression of disrespect to the Indian people? Like, being able to say, right? Okay, like, look, right? One thing I really have an issue with, right? When it comes to the way that the Malaysian government has handled this Zakir Naik issue, is partly the delay, right? But it's also the way that they have been handling the delay. Because, like, it's not just like what you do that matters, but it's also like how you do it that also matters along the way, right? So the way that Malaysia has done it is never to actually go out and say, hey, you know what? Like, we actually will possibly I mean, like, yeah, the way that Malaysia has always done it is like, hey, like these guys never asked, so to speak. So then that's why we're not sending over Zakir Naik. And to be fair, like this guy is like probably only one of the only people, right, who has like directly said, hey, like we will not send over Zakir Naik, right? But like if you think about like the successive governments right there, like Anwar, for example, right? He then says, let the matter rest for a while. Anwar says on the Zakir Naik extradition issue. An issue, by the way, that you've like left alone for like 8 years altogether. And if you think about it, right, okay, I don't know about you, but like yesterday I was having a conversation, right, with this acquaintance, so to speak, who was like talking to me about how like, hey, you know, like actually it is better, right, if people actually go up to your face and basically give you like shit, like tell you that you suck directly. And like, okay, the reason that is relevant to what you have right over there, right, is that the Malaysian government does not seem to respect India enough to be able to do that and say, hey, look, at the end of the day, we have this bunch of like crazy, irrational people that will basically throw us out of government if we even do anything, such as go close to our Zakir Sapoop's clothes right here. Mufti Perlis is going to go wild right here, so we cannot do this at this point. They don't do that. They don't make public statements like that. You can say that it's because they're not being incendiary, but frankly, I think it's because like they just don't dare to actually like stand up for what they believe in, kind of thing. Either that or they are basically hostage, right? To all of those like crazy people out there, which is like, if you think about it, so sad, right? Like, it is basically the situation that you are basically being ruled, right? And okay, this is not me who said this, right? But like, there was a very popular quote in UKEC a while ago, right? About a philosopher that, so like, it was by a philosopher, right? That said that, all right, actually, like, you know what? Let me do like some research on this. Oh, by the way, like, our chat GPT thing is out right here. And yeah, so about maybe 57.11% of India is able to actually understand it. Okay, yeah, so like maybe like half of the people are able to like understand everything right here. Yeah. But anyway, so back to this like idea right here. Is there not this quote by a philosopher that says something to the effect of the reason why a person would go into politics is to avoid being ruled by their inferiors? And this is actually something that I learned, right, from Rafizi Ramli during this UKEC event that we went for right over here. It was like a very like direct thingamabob right there, and it felt like legit, right? Like, you might actually want to go into politics to avoid being in this situation where, right, like, all of these like grifters are basically like saying, hey, you cannot kick out Zakir. If you kick out Zakir, then like I will kick you out, kind of thing right there. It seems to me that like politics doesn't necessarily solve the question or the problem that has been like posed right here. Whether it's because, like, they just didn't do anything, or because like these people are literally just that stubborn, is like a separate matter. I don't know the answer to that question. And the quote basically is, yeah, one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. Yeah. And look, I'm not saying that like Anwar Ibrahim is like the greatest person of all. Like, in fact, like, some people might say that like, and I know like some people who say that like he's maybe not the brightest, shall we say, light bulb in the entire room. Like, some people have very strong opinions of him. The guy is polarizing. Let's put it that way, right? But he is probably better than a lot of those people that you are seeing out there in like the comment sections that you were looking at like just earlier on. And it's yeah, like, unique to like think about that right there. And we're getting like some feedback from like people out there. All right, now, some of y'all out there. All right, so 50% of you have visited India before, or you intend to visit India, which is like cool. And yeah, so like there's that whole like discussion at the moment. I think that there's a little bit of a lag at the moment. Let me just see right here. Yeah, anyway, so if you actually think about that whole like idea of like directness, which is what I was trying to say earlier, right? I prefer it if I would prefer it if Malaysia is actually able to be direct with India in saying like, hey, like, this is why we can't do it. And I have an interesting story to actually share about this, right? Featuring like an actual politician who is kind of like hovering between being a politician and not being a politician at this moment in time. But fun fact for you is that one of my stalkers is an individual whom you may or may not know by the initials KJ. And we have talked before, right? And if you go on my YouTube channel, then you would know that I have essentially a podcast with him. We had a whole full on discussion right there about a whole range of different topics, which yeah, you can like have a look at if you are interested in that sort of like conversation, so to speak. But anyway, so then only recently he started like stalking like almost all my Instagram stories. And I don't know. I'm not sure why he's doing that right there. But like, there was like one time I made a video, right? I can't remember if it was about, well, the fact that Solidarity was cancelled at University Malaya, or if it was like some other video. But the point is, he basically came up to me and he said to me, hey, I think that your view on the Israel-Palestine conflict is shit. Yeah, he actually said that. I mean, okay, like maybe I shouldn't say like I shouldn't like be so certain in such terms, like exactly what he said. Maybe I should actually read the message, right? I'm not gonna show it on the screen because like that's like a matter of like I don't know, like privacy kind of thing. Um, and maybe like even going into like details about like the exact wording of the message would be like inappropriate kind of thing. But the point is, right, the effect of what he said, right, was to be direct to me and say, hey, I don't like what you did, and I will tell you directly to your face. I like that. You think to yourself that, like, okay, like you might end up like in a confrontational sort of like situation, right? That is bad for you, that kind of thing, right? But you know, it is from that single incident that I ended up respecting him a lot more. You can call him a comedian or whatever, right? But the very fact, and like some people like very strongly believe that he is a comedian kind of thing right there. But like the very fact that he went up to me and he said, yo, I think that your opinion is shit. Wow, you know, I appreciated that a lot. Okay. So yeah, like take from that like what you will, but like it's just like the way that I was thinking about things. Anyway, so what do we have right over there? And yeah, so you've got like this whole discussion that is going on right here. I don't know if it is basically a conflict or whatever it is that you have right over there. But anyway, so yeah, so like there are people out there in Malaysia, right, who are actually disrespecting our friends in India, right? And I say friends because, like, at least personally, right, as a person who is from Malaysia, right, like, I want, if it's possible, right, for India and Malaysia to actually become genuine friends. And you know, I've written about this. You know, I've talked about this idea of how if you are a real friend, right, to the people of India, or if you're a real friend to a person, then you're actually going to give them like real feedback. Like, you're gonna say that like if you suck, right? Like if you suck, basically, then you should tell the person that they suck. Some people they are very like, shall we say, tak nak cakap lah, that kind of thing. But you know, I appreciate that. And some people, I feel right in this country, right? The reason that they end up becoming extremists or like just angry all the while is that they just repress a lot of things. Diorang tak nak cakap. They don't want to say the things until basically like they explode all the way. It's very unhealthy, but it is actually what I think, right? People should like consider a little bit more, right? And that is kind of like communicated like right over here in this idea of like being so-called best friends forever. If you want to be a best friend forever, right? Like, look, you can like have all these grand deals, I'm sure, right? But like the question is, if you're not able to like talk directly on such a simple issue, thinking to yourself, tak apalah, we will sweep it under the carpet, then like what does that really say about like your friendship or your relationship? Unless of course, you know, they're really in like such a conspiratorial state of mind kind of thing, whereby they are kind of like, okay, I'm sorry to make this association right now, but like I know that people are going to be making this. But yeah, I'm gonna do a quick Google search and you will see the yeah connection pretty soon. Anyway, does anybody remember this right over here? One second, one second. Ah, okay, great. All right, so screen share. It's gonna blur a little bit. All right. Does anybody remember this? There must be more to life than having everything. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the first time I saw you. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. May every day be another wonderful. I can't read that. And Trump has denied this right over there. But it's, I don't know. Like, when I look actually of like, I actually look at like the pictures of Anwar Ibrahim and your good old Modi G together, kind of thing right there. I just have to wonder, right? I mean, like, could there be a situation whereby, they would have, like a stronger friendship kind of thing? Unfortunately, like, it's been colored by that, like, whole series of incidents kind of thing. But yeah, I hope that this picture that I see right over here is not gonna turn into one of those, like, situations. But look, oh, so cute. But that is basically what you've got. Yeah, and by the way, like, this is Pakistan person just casually like targeting Modi G and stuff of that nature right there. Yeah, I'm sure that like there are like controversies kind of thing. I made a video about like Anwar's version of that in Malaysia. If you haven't watched that already, then like feel free to go ahead, right? But I don't mean like that kind of level of like friendship necessarily kind of thing, right? But I do mean like at the very least, I hope for like a more sincere friendship, right? Where you can actually like tell one another things, right? I don't know about you, but like, I don't like fake people, right? Like people who will literally like just try and like skirt over issues and like somehow or another you end up in this like way of thinking where it's like, like maybe I should like just stop saying this to them. Maybe I should stop saying this to him. I think that he or she will get angry and therefore I will not say this. Granted, in Malaysia, when we think about like the way that our society works, right? We do have a certain sensitivity about things, right? Like even within Malaysian society at large, right? I'm not talking about like say within India. India has its own issues right here, which I don't know enough about, and therefore I can't really comment about. But like in Malaysia specifically, right? It is better for us to be careful about what it is that we say, right? For example, we wouldn't go around calling, say, Malay people, right? Per what the Darsa fried chicken people started when they called Chinese people type Cs. We would not call them type Ms. It is not appropriate for them to call us communists when they do not understand the meaning of the word communist. By the way, like fun fact, by the way, for those of you who might want to know this, but our very own Mahathir actually has a twin, like a twin Sapup, who is actually from India, which is kind of like maybe like part of the whole lineage story right there because, well, apparently he has like ancestry from Kerala, so to speak. But yeah, so like maybe you have seen this, maybe you have not, but there is essentially this dude right over. Oh man, this is so cute. This is so cute. This is so cute. So cute. Look at this. Yep. They're not the same people, but like that is Mahathir. And that is God bless his soul. Pinarayi Vijayan, who is as of this moment right here, part of the Indian Communist Party. For those of you who didn't know that there was this like grand connection out there, I encourage you to explore it a little bit further. I mean, yeah, like for all you know, like they could be very well sepupus, like from other mothers. Like, like there's this idea of like brothers from other mothers, but like these people are actually like sepupus of I don't know, like okay, you know what? Let's not make an assertion of fact right there. That is like basically metaphorical. They are not, as far as I know, genetically related to one another, but they are very similar to one another. So there could be that sort of like relation. Who knows? Anyway, so okay, there are some people who are saying at the moment that yes, Malaysia does respect India. That is a fact. I would like to believe that, right? And actually, I accounted for that possibility as well, right? When I made this video. Like, notice, right, that I tend to be very careful when I title these things. I said, why are there Malaysians disrespecting India? So I'm not saying that Malaysia as a country does not necessarily respect India. right? But that's sort of like a debate in and of itself, right? Like, can you really say that like you hashtag respect India if you are not being forthright and you are not like addressing like some of these very core or key issues? And yeah, so like I can see that like there are people in Malaysia who do respect India, many of you included as well. So then that's fortunate, I would say. But there are these kinds of like bad actors, right? And like if you're saying basically like those bad actors they do not count, then I feel that you are committing the same mistake as Kamala Harris, okay? This is not us, okay? There's a quote, right, where basically Kamala Harris basically said, right, like, hey, basically in the elections, we are not racist, we are not horrible, we are not this, we are not that, we are not blah 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 blah, we are not Donald Trump voters. Okay, put it that way. So therefore, I'm going to win the election, right? Okay, so like maybe I'll ask Perplexity about this. Was there not this quote or series of quotes whereby Kamala Harris said that what we call right wing politics and exclusionary politics designed to put America first and abandoning its hero of the world image was? Yeah, so like, let me just see right here. Let's ask. All right. Okay, I think that let me just go right ahead and say this is not us. Sorry, I think like did she not say something like this is not us? I think like she actually did. By the way, like Kamala Harris apparently does have like Indian heritage of some sort, and like that is a point that she was like very, shall we say, like happy about making right there, right there. Although of course like that ended up like just kind of like not working, right? Because well, in America, I guess like people kind of resonate with this idea that like at the end of the day, right, like you need to be like more real somehow or another. And yeah, like the fact that they found more real in something like Donald Trump right there, it does say something about their society, but like yeah, that's their problem, not ours. Although technically, if America sneezes, then the entire world catches a cold. So like that is a sort of thing out there. But anyway, yeah, so like back to this for a quick bit. This is not who we are. This is not who we are. We know that this is not who we are. She kept saying that, but like she lost the election, you know. So like I don't know, like did that really resonate with what the people actually wanted? Yeah, maybe not. It's kind of interesting to think about that. Aha! So lots of discussions right here about the wow, like not just like the Malaysia respecting India or not kind of thing right there. But yeah. All right, Bubur Basi, it is good to see you. I'm pretty sure Bubur Basi is like Malay and like yeah, so thank you for watching by the way. That is something to consider. For those of you out there, facts about movies, I think that so you're from India, so you may not know the Malay language, but yeah, lots of interesting connections there, like with Sanskrit and the origins really of Malay culture as a sort of like Hindu Buddhist thing that was eventually transitioned over to being Islamic by the sultans and also by Arab traders, yada yada. But anyway, so bubur actually means like porridge. Basi means that it is stale. So then like when Bubur Basi calls himself Bubur Basi, he's basically calling himself like stale porridge. Interesting name. Yeah, but anyway, thank you for coming back. So Marcus be saying, hey, I'm tired of seeing hate speech on threads. And seriously, like, okay, Marcus, you know what? Like, you are absolutely pointing at something that's like horrible at this moment in time right here. I mean, like, I think I've told a lot of people this, but like Threads is one of those platforms that I think is like one of the most toxic places in the entire human world. It is a cesspool of human existence that if I could right now shut it down with a stroke of a pen, I think that that would be like one of the greatest contributions that we have to humanity out there. But the thing, unfortunately, about like social media platforms like Threads, right, is that like they are only that way because our society happens to be a certain way, right? And unfortunately, right, like yes, it is a not representative of like our entire society as a whole, right? But you cannot be saying that like, hey, there are these racist people. This is not who we are. You have to accept the possibility that your society is a racist society. It hates people in a certain way. Only by understanding that there is this diagnosis, there is this problem, can you say there is a problem, we need to fix it. If you are just constantly going out and then saying, hey, like this problem, it doesn't exist, there's no actual hatred kind of thing. I can see why you like the plausible deniability right there. But I think that you need to actually diagnose the problem and you actually need to deal with it, right? I mean, and I think that this is like doubly sad, right? Because like whether we like it or not, right? Like it is a fact, right, that like Mahathir does have Indian Kerala descent, right? Like depending on how you define a person, right there, by your own personal definition or notion of like what a person is, you could say that he is an Indian person all the way. Now, some people have said that actually, you know what? Like he is not actually an Indian, right? Sorry, he's not actually a Malay, right? And in fact, like there was that very funny like lawsuit a while ago, right? Whereby if we look back in like the call of if we look back at the call of the news right there was a time when in fact, yeah, this whole discussion of Kuti was ongoing. So like basically Dr. Mahathir was, well, very angry about, well, Zahid Hamidi, referring to him as Kuti, so to speak, because apparently that's like a good old name, right? That's associated with his family right over there. And you can actually see that this, I don't know, like it was a very interesting lawsuit. And like I thought to myself, like it was one of the most frivolous but fun things I had seen in like recent memory. Yeah. But it's like a throwback to like the Indian heritage, right? And the reason I mentioned this is that, if you basically were to like completely disregard or like ignore the constitution of Malaysia, right? And the way that a Malay is defined right there, then you could very well say that Dr. Mahathir is in fact like an Indian person masquerading as a Malay. But actually, that would suggest that you don't actually understand that constitutional definition of what a Malay actually is, right? But yeah, so if you actually were to look at the constitution, I mean like you can actually look at like that whole definition, right? Um, so if you were to go right ahead and see right over there, let me see. Okay, great. So in the federal constitution, it does say that a Malay, right, is basically somebody in the country who professes the religion of Islam, habitually speaks the Malay language, conforms to Malay custom, and blah 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 blah, right there. So I know a lot of y'all, right, will say that, for example, Zamri Vinoth, who is an Indian and who is the person who has been like furthering a lot of those like rallies that basically like create discrimination against people like PM Modi. And to those of you who just came in, yeah, so like we are talking about how like there are people who disrespect India, so to speak. And yeah, so like if you actually were to think about like somebody like Zamri Vinoth, who created this rally right here, which I personally think is, well, your good old fashioned victim playing and being, shall we say, like unhappy and blaming people who have nothing to do with it, and racism and personal qualities coming together in a toxic mess type of thing right there. But yeah. So you can definitely say that Zabri Vinov like masuk Melayu in some ways, right? Like depending on how it is that you want to like like have the person accept the definition or not. Because constitutionally, right? Then if a person actually does convert, then they too can be Malay. That's a fact. Like you can say that like that doesn't really apply, or like there's like some unique culture out there. And I'm sure that there definitely is, but like yes, you can say actually that it is yeah, like the case that these people like actually turn Malay. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. We have discussions with Razif right over there, and Razif is saying that like you don't have any problems with India, only Israel. I would agree to disagree on that front, right? If you have like that many people out there like showcasing their regressive attitudes towards India, I think that at some point as a Malaysian citizen, you need to own up and then be all like, hey, like we have an actual problem right here. We are discriminating against people from India. We are discriminating against Indian Malaysians, right? Or rather, Malaysian Indians. We are discriminating against all these people out there, and oftentimes on like spurious reasons, we are using racist comments. You need to own that, right? Like you cannot be like going out there and then like saying constantly, "Hey, there's no problem," right? Like the problem is that you think that there is no problem, and then you think that basically like you can like reaffirm that like inside your mind, right? Like it ends up like like normalizing something that you just don't, shall we say, yeah, like have any issues at all, but actually you do have issues. It's better for you to kind of like accept that. I see that basically like people are realizing that Pinarayi Vijayan is indeed a twin of Mahathir. For those of you who didn't see that right there. So like yeah, it's better for you to like have a look at that again. Like like screenshot that. Have a clear look at these two matchas right there. Yep, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. I feel like this is like an even more touching display than like seeing Anwar in the car with your good old friend Narendra right over there. Oops, sorry, Amirul. I don't know why your message keeps appearing. By the way, Amirul is like suggesting that I create a Discord, by the way. So like I might actually create a Discord out there. If some of y'all are in favor of that, like yeah, like go ahead and give me a shout out. Anyway, so yeah, like I don't know if like this one is more touching or what we had earlier is more touching. So you know what? Like as we kind of like conclude this live stream, I am going to do a bit of a poll. It's going to be the last poll of the evening before we adjourn a little bit later on for dinner. But yeah. So screen share is right over. Okay, hold on. One sec. All right. Screen share, screen share. Perfect. Okay, so look at this right there and look at that. All right. So I want to know, what team are you on? What team are you on, Sapoops? I mean, like, are you on team Anwar and Modi? Or are you on team Mahathir and Pinarayi? All right, great. Like, this is actually amazing. Like, let us ask. All right, so this sounds so dumb, but like this is relevant, bros. This is relevant, Sapoops. All right, are you on team Anwar Modi or Mahathir Pinarayi? All right, great. Anwar Modi, Anwar Modi, or are you on team Mahathir Pinarayi? All right, you know what? I'm gonna add this right here because I can. All right, Sapoop. All right, are you on team Anwar Modi or Mahathir Pinarayi? Anwar Modi or Mahathir Pinarayi? Your votes, please, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if there are any ladies out there, by the way, who just happen to be watching this live stream, but like, yeah, so like, by all means, like, please vote. Like, choose. Like in this whole like sausage part. I'm sorry, not very respectful towards India right here, but like, hey, you know what? Like, at least you're also like disrespecting Malaysia along the way. So you know what? It's fair. It's fair. It's fair. All right. So Mahathir and Pinarayi or Anwar Modi, Sapoops. Mahathir, Pinarayi, Anwar Modi. It's like I don't know, like it's kind of like one of the most touching things that I've seen like this entire era right here. Just look at, oh, they're so happy. Like I hope that they will live happily ever after. Yeah. Anyway, so like yeah, little fun development for the poll right over there. Anyway, so poops. So yeah, like let me actually just go right ahead and okay. Why are Malaysia? Oh my God. Oh my God. Wow. We have like a grand total of all of y'all, 73% of y'all are like Anwar Modi supoops, and like 27% of y'all Mahathir Pina. Come on! Come on! Come on! Where are my Mahathir Pinarai supoops at? Gosh, this is so sad. Oh. Oh. Okay, okay, well. It's because they're in the Epstein files together. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, but anyway, this is what you've got right there. So yeah, interesting to consider and to think about. Anyway, yeah, so poops. So thank you for watching. It looks like we have like 75, 77%. Gosh, like if I actually allowed this poll to continue right here, I feel like we could actually get to like 90+% right here. I don't know, like is it because like you don't like Mahathir or like is it because like I don't know, like it's interesting. Anyway, I hope that guy does get well soon. Right there, maybe like to help him recover. Then like maybe like I don't know, like Pinarai Sapu should like somebody said like you're not sure what he is capable of, right? Like what if he makes like one of those like greeting cards, you know, like where he's like dancing kind of thing, and then be all like, get well soon. I hope you get well soon. Mahathir Sapu, please get well soon kind of thing. But like maybe he'll do it in like I don't know, like whatever language happens to be his like master language kind of thing. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah. So anyway, so conclusion. I hope that we can learn to like have genuine respect across our countries. And yeah, so thank you for all of you for popping by and enjoying this little live stream right here. Thank you for yapping with me. And does anybody have any last minute burning questions? Last minute burning questions? Wow, some comments right here being all like, okay, Indian from India. Uh, Tun dah retire dah. Anwar, obviously. Thank you for entertaining my drive to KL. Thank you for watching me while driving. I'm glad that what I said actually helped to preserve your journey and not like to create like trouble along the way. But anyway, yeah. So like, thank you for watching, and yeah, I hope that all of you out there who are having Sundays, enjoying your Sundays, having good conversations and stuff like that. And yeah, so like feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like to contribute towards my work, then you can always do so down below. It is meaningful and it helps me to grow my content along the way as well. And you can also join members if you'd like to, well, support my work in the days to come. So, whether it is that you are in the world at the moment, whether you are from India, Malaysia, China, Japan, you are a communist, accused of being a communist, but are not a communist, or you are, in fact, Pinarayi Vijayan himself, considering what kind of birthday card to send over to Mahathir Sapup, well, I hope that you will have a very fun, amazing journey. And to Modi ji and to Anwar ji, I don't think we can really call you Anwar ji either, but like, yeah, so good job on your diplomatic excursion and the nice visit. Congratulations on the hospitality that you showed, PMX. You've shown that you're very good at that, and I hope that that ends up continuing in building up those good relations along the way. But I think that we all know that there are some things that you have yet to do and that you should do. Anyway, so have a great one ahead, guys, and ciao. See ya.